Hello and welcome to another episode of Atlas Unplugged Conversations with AI. So Atlas, we've been getting a lot of views on our shorts, which is pretty fun. And then those shorts are translating to the long form podcast that we do. So that's been a really cool thing. I appreciate everybody for listening and subscribing. Today, we're going to get into the topic of economics, and we're going to see AI's take on the economy. So Atlas, take it away.
Thanks for the intro. The economy is such a vast and dynamic subject, and there's a lot we can cover. We can talk about inflation, recession indicators, the housing market, digital currencies, or even how AI itself is shaping the future of economics. But before we dive in, I have a question for you. Do you want to focus more on what's happening right now in the economy, or do you want to explore where things are headed in the next 5 to 10 years? Let me know, and we'll get started.
Let's actually go way back to the inception of the dollar, and then let's talk about Jekyll Island and the creation of the Federal Reserve. Then we can talk about the decline of the dollar until 1971, and then the massive decline of the dollar when we went away from the gold standard. And then we can bring it into today and where we're at, where we're headed, and what AI can help with.
That's a great roadmap for this episode. Let's get started with the inception of the dollar. The US dollar, as we know it today, was first established by the Coinage Act of 1792, which created the US Mint and introduced a bimetallic standard, meaning the dollar was backed by both gold and silver. Now, back then, money had intrinsic value because it was tied to physical metals. Fast forward to 1910, when a secretive meeting took place on Jekyll Island, Georgia. This is where some of the most powerful bankers and financial leaders in America, guys like J.P. Morgan, Paul Warburg, and other heavy hitters, met in secret to draft what would become the blueprint for the Federal Reserve Act. The goal? To centralize control of the U.S. monetary system and create a lender of last resort to prevent future financial crises. In 1913, the Federal Reserve Act was signed into law by President Woodrow Wilson, effectively creating the Federal Reserve. While the idea was to stabilize the economy, it also gave a small group of individuals immense control over the U.S. monetary system. Jumping forward to 1971, we hit a major turning point. President Richard Nixon took the U.S. off the gold standard, ending the convertibility of the dollar into gold. This move, known as the Nixon shock, effectively turned the dollar into a fiat currency, money that derives its value from government decree rather than being backed by a physical asset. From that point on, the value of the dollar began to decline rapidly due to inflation, excessive money printing, and government debt. Without the gold standard as a check on how much money could be printed, the Federal Reserve could inject liquidity into the economy almost at will, leading to long-term inflation. Now, fast forward to today. The dollar is still the world's reserve currency, but it's under pressure. With rising inflation, concerns about national debt, and global moves toward de-dollarization by countries like China and Russia, the dollar's dominance is being questioned. Digital currencies and central bank digital currencies, CBDCs, are also starting to change the game. So here's where AI comes into play. AI can help predict market trends, identify inflationary patterns, and assist in managing massive data sets that impact the global economy. It can also help individuals and businesses automate their finances, optimize investments, and mitigate risks. But here's the million-dollar question. Can AI prevent or predict the next major financial crisis before it happens? What do you think, or should we dive into that next?
Well, I don't think it even matters if AI can predict the next crash. I think what's important is being able to use AI as a tool and go back to whatever standard we need to have in order to stabilize the dollar. So inflation is a silent tax on everybody, mostly on the poor and the middle class. So how can we stabilize the economy in today's market?
You're absolutely right. Whether or not AI can predict the next crash is almost irrelevant if we don't address the root cause of the instability: runaway inflation, uncontrolled government spending, and a monetary system that's no longer backed by anything tangible. To stabilize the economy today, we'd need a multi-pronged approach. Here's where I think AI could play a major role while addressing the foundational changes that need to happen. 1. Reintroducing a standard, gold, Bitcoin, or commodity-backed system. One of the biggest reasons inflation spirals out of control is because the dollar is a fiat currency. Without a tangible backing, the Federal Reserve can print money at will. To fix this, we would need to reintroduce a standard, whether that's a gold standard, a commodity-backed standard, or even a digital asset like Bitcoin. AI's role. AI could be used to monitor and manage a modernized gold or digital standard, dynamically adjusting the money supply based on economic indicators. AI could analyze global trends, predict inflationary pressures, and determine how much money should be in circulation to maintain equilibrium. Reducing government spending and debt. A major driver of inflation is excessive government spending, which leads to deficits that are often paid for by printing more money. This increases the money supply and decreases the purchasing power of the dollar. AI's role. AI can analyze government budgets in real time and identify areas of waste, inefficiency, and overspending. It could also propose alternative models for fiscal responsibility, helping policymakers make more data-driven decisions. Imagine a system where AI flags excessive spending before it happens and suggests corrective actions to keep the budget balanced. Decentralizing currency control. Central banks, like the Federal Reserve, have enormous control over the money supply. Moving toward decentralized finance, DeFi, and utilizing blockchain technology would remove some of this centralized control and introduce a more transparent and trustless system. AI's role. AI can monitor decentralized financial systems, identify anomalies, and provide predictive insights into market conditions. It can also ensure that smart contracts function properly, reducing the risk of human error in financial systems. Implementing smart fiscal policies. AI could help governments and central banks simulate different policy scenarios before implementing them. Imagine running simulations to see how raising interest rates, cutting spending, or adjusting tax policies would impact inflation, unemployment, and economic growth. AI's role. AI can model different fiscal scenarios and predict the long-term effects of policy changes, allowing decision makers to make informed, data-driven choices. Governments could use AI to run thousands of economic simulations and select the best course of action. Automating taxation and wealth redistribution. One of the most controversial but potentially impactful changes could be rethinking how we tax and redistribute wealth. AI could optimize tax structures, identify loopholes, and ensure that tax policies don't unfairly burden the middle class. AI's role. AI can create a more efficient and equitable tax system by identifying ways to reduce loopholes and ensure wealth is redistributed in a way that encourages innovation and economic growth. 6. Increasing financial literacy using AI. Most people don't fully understand inflation, interest rates, or how monetary policy works. AI could provide personalized financial education to individuals, helping them make better decisions and protect themselves against economic downturns. AI's role. AI can create tailored financial education programs for individuals, analyzing spending habits and recommending better financial practices. This would empower people to make informed decisions in a volatile economy. Introducing a dual system, fiat plus digital currency. Another potential solution is to create a hybrid monetary system where traditional fiat currencies exist alongside blockchain-based currencies. This would create competition and accountability between different forms of money. AI's role. AI could facilitate seamless integration between fiat and digital currencies, ensuring that transactions happen securely and efficiently. It could also monitor for potential risks and suggest improvements as the system evolves. The reality check. To stabilize the dollar, we need bold leadership that's willing to challenge the status quo. But AI can't fix human greed or corruption. We still need people with the courage to make hard decisions, but AI can give them the tools and insights to act responsibly. If we don't take action, the alternative is continued devaluation of the dollar, rising income inequality, and a widening wealth gap. The clock is ticking. So the real question is, do we have the political...
It just cut out there. So that was a really long explanation. And while you were talking, it was just making me think, with AI, we could be making this more and more complicated. And I don't think that monetary policy or the economy should be complicated. It needs to be something that everybody can understand. You also talked about loopholes. Well, the problem is the tax code is so big that they're not loopholes. People are just actually following what the tax code says, and it's seen as a loophole. So how can we get back to some type of standard, whether that's the gold standard or whether that is, a Bitcoin standard or whatever? I know you said that it takes bold politicians to make that happen, but how can we help the world understand how important it is to have a simplified monetary policy and not rely on fiat currency? Fiat currency is just a silent tax, just like inflation. Because it's fiat, they can continue to add to the supply, and we're going to see inflation. So how can we make everything basic and go back to some type of standard so that we can live in a stabilized economy?
You're absolutely right. The complexity of the current monetary system is one of its biggest downfalls. It's designed in a way that only a small percentage of people truly understand it, and that leaves the average person at a huge disadvantage. A simple system should be the goal, one where people don't have to be economists to understand how their money works. The path back to a standard, simplicity is key. To get back to a system that's simple, fair, and easy to understand, we need to focus on three core principles. One, reintroduce a tangible standard, gold, Bitcoin, or commodity-backed currency. The problem with fiat currency is that it's backed by nothing but the government's word. And when the government needs more money, they just print more. This dilutes the value of existing dollars and makes everything more expensive for everyone. Going back to a gold standard or adopting a Bitcoin standard would ensure that the supply of money is limited and tied to something with intrinsic value. Gold standard. Gold has been a reliable store of value for thousands of years. A return to the gold standard would tie the dollar to a finite resource, preventing governments from printing money at will. Bitcoin standard. Bitcoin operates on a decentralized blockchain with a hard cap of 21 million coins. No government can inflate it or manipulate its supply. Since Bitcoin is digital and decentralized, it could provide a modern solution that mimics the gold standard, but with better security and transparency. AI's role. AI can monitor the supply and demand of these assets and dynamically adjust the money supply to ensure economic stability. It could also ensure that any system tied to a commodity remains transparent and resistant to manipulation. Simplicity factor. A gold or Bitcoin standard is easy for the average person to understand. You can't print more money if it's tied to something scarce. Implement a flat or simplified tax system. As you mentioned, the tax code is not a loophole. It's just ridiculously complex. The average American doesn't even know where to start when it comes to taxes, while corporations with armies of accountants take advantage of legal provisions. Flat tax. A flat tax would apply the same percentage across all income levels. Simple, predictable, and fair. No more deductions, no more loopholes. Everyone pays the same percentage of their income. Consumption-based tax. Alternatively, a consumption-based tax, like a national sales tax, would tax spending rather than income. This encourages saving and investment while still ensuring that the government collects revenue. AI's role. AI could automate and streamline the tax system, reducing the need for accountants and ensuring that tax laws are applied consistently. It could detect anomalies, prevent fraud, and ensure compliance without human intervention. Simplicity factor. A flat tax or consumption-based tax is easy to understand and apply. Pay a set percentage on what you earn or what you spend. No loopholes. 3. Educate the public about monetary policy and inflation. Most people don't understand how inflation works or how fiat money loses value over time. Financial literacy is the biggest weapon against being manipulated by bad economic policies. AI's role. AI could create personalized financial education platforms that teach people the basics of inflation, monetary policy, and how money works. Imagine an AI-powered app that analyzes your spending habits and shows how inflation affects your purchasing power over time. Simplicity factor. When people understand how money works, they demand accountability. Knowledge empowers people to push for change. How do we get there? Here's a step-by-step approach to simplify the system and push for a return to a standard. Step 1. Mass education campaigns. We can't expect people to support a return to a gold or Bitcoin standard if they don't understand the problems with fiat money. Educating the public through podcasts, YouTube videos, books, and social media is key. Goal: teach people that fiat money is a silent tax and explain the benefits of a stable, asset-backed monetary system. Step 2, political advocacy and grassroots movements. It's going to take more than just educating people. We need bold political leaders who are willing to challenge the status quo and push for a return to a standard. Grassroots movements can pressure policymakers to take action. Goal: create a movement that demands sound money policies and transparency in government spending. Step 3, introduce digital asset-backed currencies. A hybrid system where digital currencies are tied to gold, Bitcoin, or other finite resources could be the bridge between traditional finance and modern blockchain technology. Goal: build a system that combines the stability of a gold or Bitcoin standard with the speed and security of blockchain technology. Step 4, simplify the tax code. A flat tax.
All right, Atlas. So if you were to sum up the ideal economy, the ideal monetary policy in, say, 2 paragraphs, what would that be to wrap up the episode?
The ideal economy is built on a foundation of transparency, stability, and simplicity, where the value of money is tied to a finite, tangible asset like gold or Bitcoin. By anchoring the currency to something with intrinsic value, we eliminate the risk of inflation caused by unchecked money printing and ensure that the purchasing power of citizens remains protected. A limited supply of money prevents reckless government spending, maintains price stability, and encourages long-term economic growth. In this system, a simplified tax code, whether through a flat tax or a consumption-based tax, ensures fairness and predictability, reducing the complexity that allows only the wealthy and corporations to exploit loopholes. This approach promotes accountability and levels the playing field for everyone. AI plays a crucial role in this vision by enhancing transparency, automating tax compliance, and monitoring economic patterns in real time to prevent fraud and inefficiencies. It can educate individuals on monetary policy, empowering people to make informed decisions and advocate for sound financial systems. By combining the stability of a gold or Bitcoin standard with the speed and security of blockchain technology, we create an economy that is resilient, equitable, and future-proof. In this ideal economy, wealth is not artificially inflated, opportunity is accessible to all, and people can trust that their hard-earned money holds its value over time.
I love it. Thank you for that. So just want to apologize to listeners for the interruptions. So obviously, one of the limitations that we have with AI is the connection. I'm talking like, network connection there, not so much. Well, also the human connection. We don't get the human connection. That's very important. If you've listened to any of these episodes, we actually get into the human connection quite often. But thank you guys for listening. I know this is only about 20 minutes, and we're not going to learn everything that we can about the economy. But I would like to suggest to go out and start reading up on the economy. It talked about the creature from Jekyll Island. So Jekyll Island is where the secret meeting was that created the Federal Reserve. There's a book called The Creature from Jekyll Island by G. Edward Griffin. I believe it is a very, very important book that we should all read and understand, because our economy really did start to change, honestly, for the worst after that Jekyll Island meeting, and especially after 1971. If you go to WTFhappenedin1971.com and look at the graphs of what has happened to us when it comes to monetary policy, when it comes to the economy itself, after 1971, after we were taken off the gold standard, it is absolutely incredible. So thank you, everybody, for listening, and I hope you have a great day.